Okay, hello and welcome. This is a lot of dustification. The point of it is we are going to be looking at the Redstone for Decked Out. Decked Out 2, I should say. Just a note, I am not a Redstone expert, but I do enjoy looking at Redstone and trying to figure it out, and I really like Decked Out. I think Tango did an amazing job, and I honestly can't believe he managed to do this all in survival Minecraft and even manage the game in survival Minecraft. So here we go. I did do one other stream, but I had some technical issues. Turns out you couldn't hear the audio from the game, and my microphone was forever far away from me. So I'm just gonna go over what I did in that stream, which wasn't a ton, but basically I decided to break the game down into some different sections and then examine the sections individually. So what I got was up here we've got the crown shop, the game state display, and then the game setup. So right here, this is the crown shop, Redstone, which powers this part of the game. Over here, we've got the game state display, which is also connected to this barrel and this door and some of this redstone here. And then, of course, the game setup has to do with picking your difficulty level, putting your shulker box in there, how your shulker box chooses which compass from these water streams here is going to come down to you at the entrance. So we've got the game's state, which there also might be some state redstone downstairs. But then we've also got the game set up, and those will be separate. The compasses pop out at the door. Like the door opens up, but there's also the fact that the compass and the map and a couple other things can pop out at the door. There's the card array, which we'll just go look at those. So the compass, when it comes out, will drop down this water stream and then follow these water streams over here, all the way down over here, and down, and this is the door. And then there's some redstone over here at the door area. And so yeah, this is the door area, and then once we go down, oh, there's also included in that will be the minecart ride and some of the stuff that can happen there. Right down here, this is the card array. It's a pretty huge chunk of the game. And it starts over here when your shulker box gets popped out. It gets, or when you insert your shulker box full of cards, your deck, it comes down here, and then it'll sort your cards into this array and then go from there. There are some problems with this system that I've been looking at too. Apparently, I think it's right here. There's a possibility of a stuck shulker box, and I've seen on Reddit that a bunch of people are getting stuck shulker boxes, so I want to examine that a little bit. There's this shuffler here, which Tango explained, but I really don't understand all that much. So I want to look at that, see how that works. That's another thing I should mention. I know Tango has done a stream where he's explained a lot of this. I've watched the last stream where he goes through and explains everything, but it's not in great detail, and so I just wanted to come in and check it out, try to understand it all at a level that most people probably wouldn't care to. And other than that, I haven't watched very many of his streams at all, so I don't really know all that much coming in. Connected to the card array, but slightly different, are these platforms here that have the card logic on them. So like this is the logic for Brilliance and Nimble Looting. Over here you got some of the first ones like Ember Seeker. I want to understand how these work too and how they connect to this system, which this is the main bus. The main bus that sends signals throughout the game and updates the logic and everything. And then of course somewhere over here, last time I couldn't find it, but this time I think oh, it's right here. This is kind of the heart of the system. Everything from the main bus comes into and out of this area, which does hazard and clank and embers and treasure are all controlled from here, and then those signals are dispersed throughout the game to update it and make things happen. Let's see. And then the other thing is the card shop. And the card shop is actually what I was examining in that other live stream, and that's what I'm going to continue examining today. And I'm in level 3, which is not where I want to be. I will find the card shop. I know where it is, I'm just a little lost. And then the last thing, of course, somewhere out there is the map. And the map is its own separate entity. And there are probably more sections that I'm not thinking of right now that I will get to at some point. But for now, that ought to be good. Okay, so this is Tango's storage system, which means behind here there's a hole. And that hole goes down to the shop area. Here we go. So the card shop obviously is a central part of the game. And this is what I was looking at last time, but the audio was so bad that I figured I might as well just review how things work and kind of what I discovered from that. Okay, with that lengthy introduction out of the way, we can look at this. So obviously the way this starts is you throw your artifact in here. Throwing the artifact in there makes it travel down to this hopper. I think there's a minecart hopper sitting there that feeds into this hopper. Either that or something about this. You know, it may just be that this is powdered snow, and so the item travels through the powdered snow. That would make sense. Looks like there's some Z fighting or whatever you call that right there. Okay, the item comes around and down into this dropper. Once it's inside this dropper, two things happen. One, it's going to send a signal here through to this area, which has to do with the door mechanism. And then the second thing that'll happen is it's going to send the item along this array of hoppers until it gets to its correct spot. Now, as it's traveling along this array of hoppers, what's going to happen is it's going to get to this hopper first, and then as it's traveling to this hopper, this comparator is going to activate. And this comparator here powers that block, which powers this redstone. Redstone dust into this repeater, which powers that block. These two redstone. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on down here. Right here, it's important to note there is a piston. It was hidden under a block, I think, and I broke the block. So that piston is going to be extended up for a couple of ticks. And this observer, both of these observers are looking into a block that is sitting right here. You can't see it, but that solid block is going to power this dispenser. And this dispenser, wow, does not have a lot of, the reason this doesn't have a lot of embers in it is just because I was testing to see how many it distributes. So when I gave it 64 and then I passed an item through, it spits out 6 embers anytime something passes through. Usually that would be much more full. I just wanted to see how many embers it's spitting out. And it turns out for that one it's 6 every single time. So between this observer and this observer, which I must get pulsed 4 times after this observer has already pulsed, in total you get 6 embers out of that dispenser. And they come in here into this water stream and then travel over there, and then they wait for this dispenser to deploy some water, which will shoot them up and through the trapdoor here to the player. So yeah, and then the way that the system knows which artifact is being grabbed is because this hopper right here is an item filter. And so what it's doing is it's saying, okay, it's got just enough items that it is locking this hopper. So this hopper can't accept items right now, I think is how that works. But when this gets enough items, it's going to power this repeater, which will power this block, therefore turning off this torch. This hopper is unlocked, so now it can accept an item through. And then those items will go into this barrel in the end. As it's passing through here, well, 2 things happen. One, if it is the Hood of Aya, like this comparator won't fire or won't turn on because this hopper will just grab it too fast. And so all you'll get is these 6. So it adds up, but only based on the number of hoppers it goes through where it's not the correct artifact. It's like for this one, for example, if it was the multi-grain waffle, it would go through, or it would trigger this comparator for 6, this comparator for 1, this comparator for 1, and since this right here is the item filter, it would not trigger this comparator, but you'd still have 6 plus 1 plus 1, so 8 embers going through over to there. The other thing that happens when an item comes through this filter, since it powers this redstone dust, it also powers this block, which means that this dispenser will fire once and give you your Art of Fake. And then those go into a water stream down here, which feeds into a water stream over there that goes up and around to the barrel that's in that start setup room. Okay, and that is almost all for this ember array. The other thing that's interesting, this right here, this observer facing into this block, what that's going to do is it's going to power this twice. Because once when the comparator turns on, the observer is going to detect a change and send a pulse through. And then after the item passes through, it's going to turn off. The observer will observe a change and send a pulse through to the dispenser to send a second one. Which means that the difference between, let's see, the difference between the one that stops here and doesn't trigger that comparator and the one that stops here and does trigger that comparator should be 2, but I think it's not. I think that's 14. This is 18. So that accounts for 2 of the embers that get added here, but there's also some trickery down here. This observer is observing that observer, so anytime that changes, this will also send a pulse down here. And then this observer is looking for this to turn on and off, and with these timings a little different, or with this repeater delaying the timing for that, this will send out 2 more pulses that are not connected to this observer. So in total, this one actually gets pulsed 4 times, which accounts for the difference between this one at 14 and this one at 18. But as we go down, this one here is 24, and I think this one actually is just an increase of 2. No, this one is 6. So let's look at this one. So this is the same deal, but this time it's got 2 observers, each adding 2 pulses for a total of 6 pulses going to that one. But then this one here, so we've got, let's see, this one's 30. This one's just 32 though. So we've got these big jumps that take some setup down here to make the big jumps happen. But then for this jump of 2 between that one and that one, all that's needed is this observer, which will add 2 to the system. Now, interestingly enough, you can't filter out, like if someone threw a berry in here, you can't filter it out, or you can't try to filter out everything. It's just impractical along the way. So you filter out all of the artifacts all the way down to here. You get to, this one is 60. And you can see at some point there was another jump and there's some more observers down here. But anyway, you get here, this one is 60. So what happens if it gets here and some miscellaneous items came through? Well, in theory, if there wasn't anything to protect it, you'd get 60 embers for throwing in a berry. But there's this clever comparator right here. If something travels through this hopper, meaning that it wasn't an artifact, this comparator will signal this line right here, which I call the "you done messed up" line. And if we follow that down here, what it does is it's gonna do 2 things. One, this right here is a pulse extender. So it's gonna fire a pulse, and that is going to turn this torch off, which will unlock this hopper. And this right here, this is where all of the frost embers are waiting to be shot up. And so when it unlocks this hopper, basically this hopper will be able to suck any embers that are sitting right there through, because soul sand, I think, just isn't quite a full block. And then they go in this chest, and so you can see it seems like this problem happened more than just for testing is my guess, because that is a lot of frost embers, which I just find hilarious. Let's see, I don't really know how it protects, well, it probably doesn't. Probably some of those were legitimately from an artifact, but then if they also tossed in a berry, then it would get rid of all of their artifact embers too. So it would just, because 2 items would go through here and it would do all of the pulses, and then this probably just, the reason this is on such a long delay as you go down here is just to make sure that it caught all of the items that got thrown through. And then gets rid of all of those embers. Or it may just be that this is timed to only pull through 60. I don't know. I'm not going to look into that. And that is the ember array. Pretty simple. Once you break it down into separate components. Complex to look at at first, but in the end it's not terribly complicated. Okay, so the next thing to look at is right here. This is the door system. So, since this is a dropper, it actually won't push items into here until it gets a signal to do so. So the first thing that happens is this comparator is going to turn that torch off, which will turn this redstone dust off. And then this is an etho hopper clock. And when that torch turns off, this piston will no longer be powered. And so when it turns off, since this piston is powered, it's going to immediately push the redstone block here, which will do two things. It'll well, actually it'll do multiple things. One thing it does, it's going to power that block and shoot out that item through these dispensers. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to send some redstone down here, which will play a sound. I don't know what sound this is, but I think we can check by just doing this. Okay, yeah, I hope you can hear that. It's the very long build up to when you get your frost embers, which is probably timed to this machine, to this clock, I mean. Okay. So it looks like it's just that long, intense build up. Where does this come through from? So we've got also some redstone coming through here, which gets powered from, oh, obviously this observer here is going to do one other thing. It's going to check if a music disc passes through here, it's going to send a pulse here. And that pulse is going to go into this pulse extender. And this is yellow because it's related to this coin to crown converter. And crown sender. Basically this will reset that. I'm just going to change this to yellow. Replace / replace yellow wool. There we go. And we're gonna replace that with yellow wool. That with yellow wool. And that with yellow wool. So there we go. That'll go and it'll reset the coin to crown converter. Once this clock turns off again, meaning that, well, so the way the hopper clock works is basically because this redstone is here, this hopper is locked and it can't push any items out. Because it can't push items out, it is like this hopper is ready and willing to accept those items, but it can't until the hopper gets unlocked. Once this gets unpowered and the redstone block gets pushed here, then this hopper will be locked and this other hopper will be welcome to push its items through. Once there's a single item here, this redstone, this comparator will turn on this block, which will power this redstone, and that'll unpower this torch. Once all 22 items have moved in here, and then all of them have moved back to over here, the clock will reset back to this position, and once this is empty and that comparator turns off, this redstone torch will turn back on, sending a pulse through to this dropper. And then this dropper will send this is a monostable design so that no matter what the tick pulse coming in, there's only one tick of pulse coming out. So this will send up an item that'll immediately be sent back down. The comparator will read that and send a pulse through to this, which is another pulse extender. This observer will read when this pulse extender turns on. It'll read again when this pulse extender turns off. And then the line coming through here just powers this. So when this pulse extender turns on, it's going to put the water in here and send any items and fish up through the trapdoor up there. And then once this pulse extender turns off, which this isn't a super long pulse extender, it'll observe that change again and it'll retract the water. So no more fish will get sent up. That signal travels along this chain to this block, and then gets passed along to this block here where it gets split in two directions. This direction here, what it's going to do is it is going to power the trapdoor. Right there. I think this powers, honestly, I'm not sure I know how this one works, but somehow that piece of redstone is going to power, it powers this block right here. And this block being powered means this trapdoor is going to open. Okay, so that's thing one that it does. It's going to power it, or open that trapdoor briefly. For however long that pulse extender stays on, I believe. The other thing it's going to do, it's going to send a signal briefly over here. This is an AND gate. When both of these torches are off, this torch will turn on, and that will start another chain of events. This torch right here turns on from the "you done messed up" line. So if you've messed up and this right here is ongoing, this torch will turn off, which will turn that torch on, which will keep this torch off even if that one turns off. If that makes sense, because this as long as this redstone dust right here is powered, then this torch stays off, and so the signal can't pass through. Okay, next. So this signal here, once this torch turns on, meaning that the frost embers have shot up successfully and you haven't messed up, then this block will be powered, which will play this music disc, which we can check what this is. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's what plays when the frost embers shoot up from the thing, so that's how that gets played. When that gets played, a signal's also passed here, which we will examine later. Okay, then we've got the redstone comes here, which unpowers that torch, which goes right here. And then this does something interesting. There's a bunch of iron nuggets in here. One of them is going to shoot out to this pressure plate. When that pressure plate's on, this torch turns off for a different reason, but once that pressure plate turns on, this redstone line right here will be turned on, which will send a signal up here to this, which is the piston door right there. You can see some of the sticky pistons and everything triggering that door. I'm not going to go through how piston doors work because there's plenty of videos explaining it. It's just we'll just note that all of this redstone here and that redstone line there is connected to this door. And so as long as there is an item on that pressure plate, a little iron nugget, the door will stay open. So it stays open for about 5 minutes, seems like. Okay, that signal that comes up here is going to do another thing. It's going to turn this torch on, which will send a signal this way to this, and also this way to, I guess, this, which is, this is a flip-flop that is connected to the reset line. So when this redstone is off, the shop resets, basically. I think there's a little more to it than that, but that's basically what happens. We'll look at that a little bit later. First, yeah, the other way it travels is this way, and this is what we're going to look at next. But before we do that, I want to go and show the crown converter. So this is the coin to crown converter. And the way that it works is the coins basically get the coins and crowns get filtered out here. If a crown comes through, this line, any type of crown comes through, this is just the item filter, but we're going to pull a signal off of the item filter and send it up to, if we follow this redstone line, we will find that it comes up here. Okay. And then, did I follow the right line? I think I lost track of it and followed the wrong line. That's unfortunate. It's this line, I'm pretty sure. Comes up here, and it triggers this, which is just a crown dispenser that goes into a water stream that then gets put in your barrel. That's the barrel that's right here. So that's how crowns come through, is it's just a redstone signal, and we'll follow that back just to prove that that is the right signal. Wait a minute. Just gonna make sure. Okay, yeah, following the right one. Yeah. Yeah, and this is looking familiar already. And we are back down to the coin to crown converter. Okay. Similarly, anytime this repeater turns on, that is also going to power that line. And then, let's see, so let's figure out when that's turned on. So what happens is if the coin comes through here, it doesn't immediately get filtered into a barrel like the crowns do. Instead, it follows this hopper line. There's a comparator there. This comparator will temporarily lock this hopper so that it won't accept more coins for a moment. While this coin is passing through. And then when the coin passes through this comparator, we get a signal here, and 4 items are going to get passed into that hopper, and that hopper is locked by this torch. And then the coin will continue to pass through to this barrel. Once 4 items have been transferred into that locked hopper, this comparator will turn off, and this comparator will turn on. This comparator being on is making it so that this iron bar right here can't get into this hopper. But once that's unpowered and this is powered, Well, then the iron bars are going to be in here. That comparator fires into here. We get the crown conversion sound, and we get a crown sent up. The other thing, when this comparator turns on, this comparator is reading from that hopper as well, and so it's going to turn this torch on as long as that one's off, and it should be. Or no, actually that doesn't matter. Anything that powers this block is going to turn that torch off, and that allows the items to flow back in that direction for the next conversion. This torch will also make sure that this gets reset so that anyone coming in will need to do 4 coins to get 1 crown. And then this line, where this line comes from, is simply oh, this can be yellow. There we go. This line comes from where we saw earlier, when the artifact is getting converted, we get a signal passed into this pulse extender. This pulse extender will keep that torch off for long enough for all of those items to pass through to there. And then, yeah, that system gets reset. That's that. This is just a different type of pulse extender that's a little shorter than the other one, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Where to next? We'll go over here. So this is the, what is it called? I guess the card selector. This selects which cards are going to come through to the shop, and also how many cards are going to come through to the shop. So I'm just going to replace this with green wool to keep it separate. Should only take a couple of minutes, but essentially the first thing it does here, this right here, is a monostable circuit, which means no matter how long the tick pulse coming in, we're going to convert it to the same pulse length every time. These repeaters will power these blocks, which will power this redstone, and then pass through the signal to that repeater, which will power that block, which powers this redstone dust. And so this is another pulse extender, but it's more configurable than the comparator version. And so with this one's on 4 ticks, this one's on 4 ticks for a total of 8 ticks, which means that this is going to get extended for 8 ticks. And for every 2 ticks that it's extended, it's going to release 1 more item. Oops, from, that was not supposed to happen. Can I undo? No, that's fine. I don't know where those other items went. There they are. Okay. Sorry about that. Every 2 ticks that this is extended, 1 more item is going to get pushed from this dispenser to this dispenser, or dropper. That dropper to that dropper. And so when that happens, so for 8 ticks, 4 items are going to get put in this dropper. Okay. The other thing the line does is it comes around here. And it goes over to this other mechanism that's going to determine, that's going to run once every time it has to empty that dispenser. We'll see that in just a second here. That line's something different. I don't remember what it is. Replace. Actually, is that a solid block? Let's replace all of those. Okay. So I don't know what this line does. But we'll look at that in just a sec. Oh wait. This takes a signal that direction into that, which will lengthen this. So this is another pulse extender, and this is a comparator pulse extender. This block is actually important, so let's just replace that too. What this is going to do is, so we get 8 ticks for that, for this observer firing, to power that dispenser 8 times or 4 times and get the 4 blocks in there. Similarly, or not similarly, at the same time, this is being passed over here for the full 8 ticks, but then this comparator loop here will keep the signal on and it'll extend it for quite a bit longer. And what's going to happen is this is going to extend and stay extended for as long as this comparator line is on. So the first time it extends is just because it got a pulse from over there. Okay, this block is important. So is this one. And then this. I don't think there's any blocks below that, so I should be good to replace it. This is part of another line. Bear with me while I replace these carpets. I just want to keep everything separate, so that it's clear and easy to see later on. Okay. Because I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but the idea is we've got all of these different systems, or I guess areas. So the entire card shop is one area. But the card shop has several systems that make it run, such as the door system, the ember dispenser system, and then those systems can be broken down into components. And once you've got the components and the systems broken down, then the area just makes sense. And so the reason it's important to make these all separate colors is to keep the systems distinct and easy to manage. Now that powers... Oh, I see. This probably comes from a card that adds an extra card to the shop. Because this line comes in. Let's check if there's a repeater. Yeah, the repeater's facing this direction, so this line is coming in here, and it is powering this to make there be one extra card in the shop. Pretty sure there's a card that does that. Okay. So for as long as this pulse extender here is on, this block is going to be pushed over. And when there's a solid block here, that's going to allow this comparator to read the state of this dropper. And when I say the state, I mean just whether it's empty or it's got at least one item in it. So when this turns on, what's going to happen is it's going to pass a signal onto here. This block, it'll power this block, which will power this redstone, and then I think this is just a little clock that will, as long as this isn't getting... Yeah, okay, interesting. So this clock we'll put a or we'll drop another item from here to here. So the block will be pushed over, the comparator will read and output, and then after some delay it'll power this block. This block will power this, which will make it so that this will dispense another item. I think it also briefly turns this comparator off, because this will now be a signal level 15, and if that's less than a signal level of 15, then this will be turned off. We can test that real quick. I'm curious. Okay, so let's go over here maybe. Okay, so what we want is we want a dropper here. That works. Block there. Redstone comparator. Okay. If I've got an item in here, the comparator's on. However, if I power that, then I need a repeater, I guess. So if I power that, then this will turn off. But if I unpower that, it'll turn on. However, if this is getting a signal strength of 15, then what? Then it stays on. So there is a limit to how many cards you can have in the shop. But that limit is absurd. That's way more cards than you would ever have in the shop. And I'm pretty sure it's like, yeah, this has to be entirely full in order for this not to work. Yeah, so that's gonna work just fine. And now I have a ton of basalt, don't I? Okay. So this will be locked as long as this isn't entirely full, because it's getting a signal strength of 15 from this repeater. However, once this signal has passed through, it'll be free to read again. It won't be locked anymore, and so it's going to send another pulse down this way, which in turn dispenses another item from here to here and locks that for a moment. And then we'll send another one, and then another one, and so on. And the only reason it's turned off right now is because this isn't extended. Once this pulse dies, anything left in this will be useless. Or not useless, but won't be there. We'll dispense another item once this turns back on. And I guess the reason that this is off is because of this, because you can have an extra card in the shop, and so that extra card will just wait here until the player gets down here, because otherwise who cares if it's sitting, or it wouldn't matter, because it wouldn't be until the player's down here that any items should be entering in here. I don't know if that made sense, but it did to me. Okay, so next up is this part of the shop. So every time a card comes through, we are also going to get a pulse here, which this will extend the lifespan of this again. This will reinvigorate. I don't remember the right word right now. Reinstate the pulse extender. It'll extend the pulse extender, I guess. Every time a card is going to be dispensed through here. So let's grab these and make them green wool. I'm not quite sure what that is. We'll look at that in a minute. Okay. So then over here, this is going to be the first part of the card choosing. Okay. When a pulse comes through to here, this dispenser will shoot something out. Either bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, or bank 4. And then those will be read by these different item locks or item filters. Bank 4, 3, 2, 1. Anything that isn't part of that will just go there. When these are read, these signals are pulled through. And I might do this in a different color of wool, since I feel like we're moving on to a different system. That's not really part of anything right there, that block. But then these item filters are. So I guess one thing to note is that I don't think this is meant to connect to that. I think it connects because they're both comparators, but I don't think it's meant to. I actually think this is the old crown conversion system. I don't have a way of checking that, but I think this is the pay it forward crown conversion system. So we're just going to ignore that. Okay. Card selection. I guess we do lime green wool. That'll work. This to me is one of the most clever things. I guess I should also note some of this redstone I've examined, and so I kind of know what's going on. But there'll be other stuff where I'm just stumbling through and I don't actually know exactly how it works. Like the card. The bus and the card mechanics, I only have a very basic understanding of how those work. Okay. So here we go with card selection. So we'll start with, this is bank 1. When bank 1 gets fired, then we get this here, this line of redstone will take that signal to this dispenser dropper right here. This dropper has all of the different cards that can be selected, and it only has one of each. So it will randomly, when bank 1 is randomly selected, it will randomly select one of its cards to, or one of its nuggets to go up here and be selected for one of these cards. These cards, of course, are also item filters, and there should be 7 filters. 4, nothing, 5, 6, 7, and that's the end. As you can see, they don't go any farther. So there's no overflow protection here, but that shouldn't matter in theory, because these are pretty well protected. I guess you could, probably should have those hoppers covered. But anyway, that was the wrong color. Guess I can just replace it with this. So these item filters are also part of the card selection. I can just grab all of them. Now, when an item gets selected, it's also read by this repeater, and the signal is passed into one more place. It's passed into this block, which, as you can see, is attached to a apparently I just unlocked all of those cards. I don't even know how I did that. I must have triggered an observer or something. Or let a signal pass through somewhere where it shouldn't have. That's okay. What this does, when this gets activated, an item will get passed from here to here. So if I put this back in there... Oh. I really wish I could undo. That should be pointing up. And then, so these are just like basically a flip-flop. Either it's on or it's off. There's probably a way to reset this, but I don't know it. So we'll just do it manually. But as you see, when the item is down here, this comparator stays on, which will unpower this red torch, or this redstone torch. And what that does is that redstone torch is powering this block, or not powering this block, which is connected to these slime blocks. And then this, on top of this redstone, although we can't see it, is an armor stand holding a card. And then something about one of the data packs makes it so that the cards are, or the armor stands can be turned invisible. And so when on the other side the dispenser is triggered, then the flip-flop turns these on. And when they're turned on, then so they're turned on because this is empty, and that powers this redstone, or powers this redstone torch, which then powers this block and this piston, which pushes the armor stand up and lets you see the card. Know that it's available. Okay, so this is powered. So if that got unpowered and repowered, this is going to be how it resets. Is if this gets unpowered and then powered again, all of these will reset because all of these droppers will fire an item, if they have it, into the other dropper down here. So this is part of the reset line, is my guess. Yeah. And then similarly, this one has 7 of its own, so if bank 2 is chosen randomly from the system earlier, then we've got 7 here that we can randomly, 7 cards we can randomly choose from, which will go into these hoppers. And same sort of deal. There's the item filters and everything. And yeah, that's that. Let's see, why don't we make these some lime glass? Lime glass? Is that what it's called? Is it light green? Is there no lime glass? Oh no, it's just called stained glass. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we're gonna have to do all of this colorization on all of these. Maybe I do that later. No, I might as well do it now. If you're watching, you can just skip ahead if you want. Probably should have mentioned this at some point. This is my first time streaming with this setup too, so I'm hoping that it works out, and I've tested it in a few videos, and from what I can tell it's working, but if my mic's been off this whole time, it's going to be really awkward. This glass and this redstone is part of the reset system, I'm pretty sure, and so I'm going to ignore that for the time being. Gotta go over to the other side. You know what? Sorry, I'm just flying all over the place. We will follow this line here. When that block gets powered, this is bank 2. Oh, that was wrong. I'm wool. There we go. Staircase is not as easy to replace. This avoids a conflict with that redstone by going here. Over to here. So yeah, he must have just... Oops. Yeah, / undo. I'll just do these individually. Oops. Oh my gosh, okay. Get past all the undo and redos. There we go. There. I'm wool. So it looks like later on he added this little bit here. And so in order to not conflict these lines, he just moved the line over here and then moved it back. Not cross wires. Okay, that's that one. 2 more to go. We got this one. I don't think that block is necessary at all. I'm not gonna get rid of it, but I'm just not gonna mark it. The other thing is I'm not being perfect about this because under some of these repeaters it's hard to get to, and I don't really care to have it perfect, so... Did I lose the line? No. This should still be bank 3. Bank 3 is going to go around back. Okay. And we're up to this one. Let's change these item filters. Boom. I think what this will do too, by changing these blocks, it will make it so that when I'm examining later systems, that I won't get confused. If this is part of a new system or part of an old system I've already examined. This one kind of crosses the line, but it's more part of that item filter than the card display. Okay, I think I'll do the glass after I finish this fourth line. Okay, so the fourth line, this block gets powered. So it's this. What is that doing? This powers that block, but what does that do? That just stop? I mean, that would lock this repeater, which would make it so that very briefly that would block this repeater from working if bank 4 was chosen. But I don't... What? This might be something that wasn't implemented. I don't think that would ever turn on at a time when this is turning on because of all of the delays and everything. Maybe though. Why would you want to block one of only 4 cards? I do kind of wish there was a way to choose which cards were more likely to be available based on difficulty, but I think that would be pretty complicated. Not terribly complicated though, you would basically just have to send something down here to signal what level was chosen. And then once you've got which level's been chosen, you would just have a couple of different banks that you'd pull from to get which card banks. So you'd have difficulty banks, and then you'd have card banks to choose from. And the combination of those would give you... Yeah, that's still working. Stained glass is just weird. There's some rendering issues. So now I can't see the water at all. I guess I kind of can. It's there. Okay. What was I talking about? Yeah, so you'd send... I also find it hilarious that there's just like diamonds all over this place, but Dingo didn't care. It's all a game to him. Just kidding. I mean, Deck Dad is a game, but... I can't believe he did all of this on his own, too. Like, that's kind of the craziest part to me. Like, not that Deck Dad exists, but that he decided and executed the entire thing pretty much on his own. Especially when there were so many people that would have been willing to help out, at least with some of the more menial tasks. But again, that would have required instruction. It would have required quite a few things. It might have complicated things in the end and not made it any faster, but yeah, who knows. Okay, let's see. Anything else? No, I think we are done with the card arrays. Okay. Or not the card arrays, the card selector array. Very, very cool. Okay. Look at that. One more portion of this color is. I think I am going to break these blocks. Yeah, and I really don't know what the point of this block is right here. Because this gets ticked on so briefly. And and that's before the signal's even passed up here. Like, there's a 4-tick delay on that. That is absolutely done before this is ticked. Oh, you know what I bet? I bet you this was supposed to reset this old crown converter system. And he just ripped that part out. That would make sense. Oh, those are slabs. Oh yeah. Did I dispense some of those? I think turning on that comparator is not what's going to turn on these. No. Those only get turned on by this. Okay, so let's look at the card purchase system. So these are all on by default, right? And I guess they can be turned off by default, but they are on by default. And the rest of these are not, but I think they could be turned on by default pretty easily with just replacing that comparator with a lever. But then you'd probably want to change this dispenser so that there wasn't any bank 1, or whatever bank you turn on by default, you'd want to get rid of those in here. Maybe just put them in this barrel temporarily so that you don't end up missing any of your card drops. Okay, so this here is the card purchase array. What determines whether a card is available, as we've discussed, is the card selector will select cards and put the item from there into there, and that dropper being empty makes this card available, because this is either powered from this side, or below. If any of those three are powering this block, then this is turned off. And when that's turned off, the piston goes down. So there's a little bit to this part of the system. So think this is the piston we extended. Okay. Another thing that happens is because this torch is lit up and this lamp is connected to that block, this lamp is going to turn on, which will also have the cool effect of lighting up the area directly around this card, which I think is very clever. And it'll light it up through this snow because it's not a transparent, because it is a transparent block. Okay, so why don't we start with replacing these blocks? I don't know if I have a color selected. Maybe we could do light blue. Light blue wool. Okay, and so we're going to replace all of this with light blue wool. So there are 3 ways that that block gets powered, and we'll look at each of them in turn. What's cool about this array is that it's tileable, meaning that it is a 1 wide array. So you can tile these next to each other, and that's why you've got multiple cards next to each other. If each of these had to be 2 wide, then you'd have to have at least 1 space between each card. Okay, so let's compare some things about the one that's on and the one that's off right now. So the only difference actually is just that this torch is lit because this block is no longer powered, which powers that redstone and that repeater, or that piston, as I've said. Other than that, they're exactly the same right now. Does that lock a hopper? No, but these barrels have the embers. So up here we've got it does do one other thing. Okay. It does do one other thing. Part of what this piston is extending and what the armor stand is actually standing on is a block of redstone. So if we look at this, this is the one that's on, that's the one that's off. Right now, this is off. This comparator's off, that comparator's on, which is locking this hopper. So this hopper will accept embers from this. This hopper will accept embers from this shulker box. However, this one will not accept any embers from this shulker box. And then obviously, they will only accept frost embers because this is an item filter. So each of these has an item filter that will be locked if the card is not available. And this is just a really clever design, having the armor stand be on this red block, and then the redstone block, and then the redstone block additionally is what is locking the hopper. I just think that's super clever. I'm gonna replace this real quick. So yeah, and then the pistons are just attached to this, are powered whether this block is powered or not, which is based on this torch. This torch will also be locked if the item is purchased. This right here is another, this is like a multi-item flip-flop, I guess you could say. So once 40 items for this one have passed from this hopper to this one, this comparator will get reset, or this comparator will turn off because think. This comparator will turn off because this will be empty. That's all. But then we keep the comparator value instead of doing a repeater value so that when that turns off, these turn off as well. Actually, I don't really know why these are comparators and not repeaters. I'll have to think about that. But you usually do comparator chains like this if you want to keep the signal strength. Interestingly, there is an observer right here, and then I think there are 2 more observers. So what that observer is going to do is it is going to... This observer is looking at this comparator, so when this turns off temporarily because this, when this turns off because this is, what's the word? Empty, then this comparator will fire a 1-tick pulse into this observer, which gives you your card. Now, what I didn't think about was when this comparator turns back on because the shop is being reset, wouldn't this tick again? I feel like that would tick again, and then you would just end up with 1 of each card that you had already purchased. Okay, I'll have to look at that. The other thing it does is when you have purchased an item, these observers will pass that signal along to this block here, which passes down to this redstone line right here. And this redstone line is connected to a little music machine that'll play one of the purchases, one of the shop purchase sounds that are available. Should select a random one. A random one is selected currently. It's this one. Oh, actually there isn't one. So yeah, a random one will be selected and go up here. And then while the shop is off, looks like this also... This is like the shop is on, shop is off line. Maybe I should have that be a thing. Have its own color and examine that, but we'll look at that in a minute. The card purchase line will bring a... Oh, no. This isn't the shop is on, the shop is offline. This is... Hold on a minute. Oh, I see. This repeater can't pass something down to here right now, because repeaters can't do that. But if a block is here in front of the repeater and it's powering the block, then the redstone dust will pick that up. So if the shop is on, if this piston is down and this piston is down, then things will be passed along down here, and this will retract momentarily and then come back, and it'll play one of the purchase sounds randomly. Because this note block will pass a signal along to here, which will then pass a music disc up and into the jukebox. Hello, Enderman. That was loud and kind of scary. Oops. Alright, there is one other thing to talk about with that shop on and off line that's up there. And that's that it serves one other purpose of making sure you don't buy more than one item. So this is the shop on and off line. Right now it's off. But when it's on, one other thing it'll do is it will lock this hopper, meaning that when items pass through here to here, they stay here until the shop is reset. And so you could only purchase each card once. And similarly, you can only purchase each of these once as the system stands. Now the way that that counts forward is when an item passes through that ember filter that we were looking at earlier, right here, we've got another comparator. Just reading out the signal to see if an ember has passed through the filter. If it has passed through the filter, it will travel down this comparator stack here into this block here, which will very briefly unpower this torch, which allows the embers to go through to here. At the same time, this comparator line will pass a brief signal down here, since this is a transparent block. It'll pass a signal here to this line of torches, but only signal strength of 1, so it'll only power 1 dust at a time. Briefly unpowers this torch, which allows one item to pass from here to here. So each time an ember passes through here, with this, the way this is set up, one item will pass from here to here. And then since this will be on, this will be stuck here until the shop gets reset. Once this is empty, as I explained, then this comparator line, or this comparator will turn off, which then shoots out one card. But I still don't get why this wouldn't, when this turns on, you wouldn't just get one of each card. Is there something... This observer would tick that, right? There's something to do with these redstone blocks right here that I don't quite... Or these pistons. Okay, here's... This is a Java only thing. We've got some quasi-connectivity things here, I think. When this passes through, perhaps this is what's... Wait a minute. The direction that observer is facing is that way, isn't it? That did not help. The arrow's facing this way, so it's actually passing a signal up and away from... It's passing a signal away from these, so these observers do not actually power these here. That's interesting. Okay, so... What the heck? Oh. I think I see. But at the same time, I really don't think I do. I'll look at that in a minute. I'm not sure what that observer is observing. However, I did figure this out. This comparator, what it's going to do is it's going to pass a... This is why it is a comparator chain. Once this is empty, this will turn off, this will turn off, this will turn off, and then that will unpower this block here, which will turn off this torch. Turning off that torch will move this block here. Oh, and then of course this is just... I see. Okay, let me re-explain this. Just briefly. So as we know, the item filter up here is passing embers through here. Each time that happens, this comparator here is passing a signal here, which moves items there. Once all 40 of these items have been moved here, this comparator line will turn off, which will unpower this torch, or which will power this torch, which makes this piston extend. As we can see here, this piston is extended. When this piston extends, that redstone touching this will then shoot out one single card into this water stream. Okay. When that happens, when the state of this dropper changes, this observer will read that change for a 1-tick pulse, and then it'll pass it along to the observer under here and this observer, and that powers this block, which this block is what makes the purchase line happen. And so that's what these observers are doing. They're passing the signal along to the card purchase sound. Okay, that makes sense now. Now some of these things I don't really know why. I think this could be a wool block. I don't know why that is a half slab. I also have to wonder if a half slab like this would do the same thing as glass. I'm kind of curious, so I might check down here. Let's see, I need a comparator, some redstone dust. Don't really need a jukebox, so let's see. I need a slab and I need a piece of glass, but we'll figure that out in a second. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna read a signal from a dropper. Now, if we've got the comparator here and the redstone dust there, block on top. Oh, interesting. But if this were a solid block, would that still work? Yeah, because it's powering that block. Is that what it looks like over here? That one I have no idea why it's a slab, because it doesn't seem like it's trying to drop a signal at all. I think that might just be for readability. This is the one that matters, and this is a slab so that this redstone torch doesn't create a loop here. That's what it is. Okay. So that makes sense. And I think glass would accomplish the same thing. So let me look at this real quick. Actually, I think I can grab this. No, this up to this and copy. Oh, but I don't know how to paste. That's the problem. Okay, so we've got comparator, and then the problem is the torch. So we've got to move this up one more, I guess. Might need more room. Maybe I'll just do it this direction. Okay, so dropper. We are going to read that output here. We're going to pass it along here, but we've also got a torch down here. Now, if that was a solid block... Wait. The problem is the torch doesn't want to... Okay, and the comparator's going into a solid block, and then there's dust on top of the solid block that's... right there. No, so this is dropping onto this. Okay. So that would create a burnout clock. Kind of knew that it would. But I think some stained glass would make that not matter. And then of course you've got that. So if I pass in items here, sure enough, that turns off. And then the good news is, since that's a transparent block, it's not passing something back up here and creating a clock. Okay. So let's just get rid of that. Alright, since this is my copy of the game, I'm just going to do what I want, and I'm going to replace this down to here with some light blue stained glass. And theoretically, that should still work. Similarly here, okay, this is the same deal. We're just trying to get that torch not to power the redstone dust. But really, what's happening is it's not dropping the signal. This is just preventing the redstone torch from passing up a signal to this redstone dust. Okay. That is the card array. I think I understand how it works. This is the card purchase array, I should say. Okay. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. That's okay. That is all I'm going to have time for today, though. So I'm just going to replace some more blocks, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to talk. I'm going to try to keep doing these streams every Saturday from 2 to 4 in case you somehow find this video, which I don't really expect anyone to. I'm mostly doing this just because I enjoy it. But if you do happen upon this video and you want to watch live as I continue to examine this, for whatever reason, you are more than welcome to join next Saturday at 2 Pacific time. And 2 to 4 Pacific time, I should say, is the plan. And you'll know what's happening if I'm here. I don't really have another way of making it known right now. So that's just it for right now. This is a very casual thing for me because I'm just, at the same time as I'm doing this, I'm testing out streaming and seeing if it's something I'm interested in. If it's not, we'll find out pretty soon. So far it's been pretty fun though. Just kind of talking through my thought process and trying to figure these things out, because this isn't exactly an easy thing to understand. I think it's gonna take some thought, some thinking, I did that again. I don't know how I did that, but... That's gonna suck to replace. Anyway. That's pretty much gonna wrap it up for me today. I do feel like that is a good chunk of the shop. Understood. Hopefully I get better at explaining these things with time and like thinking through it, but I'll just have to wait and see. No torches below that. I am a little lost, but that's okay. See, this is also part of... I did the wrong thing. Yeah, signal doesn't pass through glass. Okay, one other thing I didn't mention is this... Oh no. I got rid of some repeaters, I think. Somehow. I'm pretty sure there were supposed to be repeaters here, but I guess not, so... Yeah, nothing left to redo. Okay. But the way one other way that this gets unpowered and the card becomes unavailable is if these comparators turn on, as you can see, or if they turn off. So if these comparators are off, this redstone torch is on, which is powering this, which unpowers that torch. So that's the other way that this gets unpowered. This just tracks like if the card is bought, then the card is no longer displayed, which means one, the armor stand comes down, but two, the redstone block comes down and locks the hopper so that it no longer accepts any frost embers. Okay, with that, I really truly am going to end this stream. And yeah, see you next week, hopefully.